Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about Virupaksha Temple of Hampi, which was in news, and what is the history of this temple, and also what is the significance as far as the Indian culture is concerned. That's what we are going to discuss about here. So first of all, to give you an idea about why this particular temple was in news. So very recently, during the heavy rainfall that was witnessed in the state of Karnataka of India, a part of the temple, basically the pillar of temple, was destroyed and collapsed. Now this temple, which is located at the historical city or site of popularly known as Hampi, it is the pavilion of the temple, which also is referred by its old name of Salu Mandapa, that was damaged. Now some of the conservationists have said that this damage is largely a result of neglect that was shown by the Archaeological Survey of India, which is the major central government agency responsible for the restoration and preservation work of the ancient monuments. So they have alleged that the officials of this organization neglected the protection and conservation of this particular temple and the site. However, at the same time, the officials of ASI, they have argued that the restoration work for this particular temple is already going on and was already underway, and it was due to the heavy rain that collapse has happened. It is not because of the negligence of the officials. Now if we try to understand about this temple in more detail, so basically it is a nationally protected monument which is also part of UNESCO World Heritage Site. If we talk about the history of this temple, it dates back as far as the 7th century. However, it is during the time of Jayanagar kingdom, somewhere in the 14th century, which lasted, the Jayanagar Empire we talk about, it lasted somewhere between 1336 to 1646. Virupaksha Temple gained prominence and underwent extensive expansion. If we talk about this temple, it has flourished because of the patronage that it received from the kings of the Jayanagar kingdom, and these kings of this particular kingdom were very much interested in art, and that is why they are believed to be great builders as well as the patrons of the art. Also, it became a vital center for both religious and cultural activities during the 14th century and the Jayanagar Empire time. If we look at the extent of the Jayanagar Empire, we can see it is somewhere in the southern part of India, encompassing modern day Karnataka, almost south and central part of Karnataka, encompassing almost the entire state of Andhra Pradesh. To some extent, we can see the spread is also over the state of Telangana, and further encompassing the entire state of Tamil Nadu. So we can see from the size itself, it was a very large, a very big empire, and this particular temple, Virupaksha Temple, and overall Hampi, we can say enjoyed great patronage during this particular time. Apart from that, if now we turn our gaze to the Jayanagar Empire, it was the Harihara I who was belonging to the Sangam dynasty, is believed to be the founder of the Jayanagar Empire. Jayanagar Empire, it began somewhere on the banks of very important river of Karnataka, Tungabhadra river, and from the bank of Tungabhadra river, it then expanded significantly and became one of the most powerful kingdom of its time. Now, if we talk about the temple architecture that is associated with the Jayanagar Empire, it is a best example of Dravidian architecture of temple. Now, the major characteristic that is associated with this style we can demarcate here is, first of all, most of the temple are having grand gopurams. Gopurams are basically a kind of towering gateways that provide access to the main buildings of the temple. Further, the shikhar is something that is a kind of tower over the sanctum sanctorum, that is where you have the either statues of the gods, or in this case Sivalingam has been installed. So above those sanctum sanctorum, also called as Garbhagriha, you have a large shikhar, and both these gopurams and shikhar are not plain, rather they are adorned with intricate carvings, as well as around these temples you will also find pillared halls. So these are the hallmarks of what we can say is the Dravid style temple architecture. Richly adorned with carvings and sculpture, the gopuram depicts various deities, mythological scenes, as well as animals. These are basically the subject of intricate carving we see on these particular buildings. If we try to understand this from the looking at the image, so this is how the Virupaksha temple look like. As you have discussed, this is the Shikhara, as you can see from here, which is above the Sanctum Sanctorum, which is somewhere around this areas. Now at the entrance you can see a grand gopuram, that is grand entrance gateway has been constructed, which is very tall in nature. And third, we have discussed about intricate carvings. Obviously you can see everywhere, at every panel you will see the intricate carvings, both on the Shikhara, around the Shikhar, around the Garbhagriha and all. And third, we have discussed, that is the pillared hallways, which are the hallmark of the Vijayanagara Empire architecture. So this is how we can understand the temple architecture. Now about the temple, if some more point we discuss, we have discussed the Garbhagriha or Sanctum Sanctorum of Virupaksha temple. As the temple is dedicated to Lord Shiva, obviously it houses the Shivalingam, which is the main object of worship in this particular temple. Historians also believe that the pavilions that are built around the temple or the main shrine are basically where traders also used to come in the older time, and they used to participate in trading activities where they used to sell articles such as those used in worship, which can be flowers, which can be fruits and other different kind of articles. Sometimes devotees visiting the temple also camp under the pavilions to spend their night around this. So this was the importance of the cave pavilions. Now if we talk about the city of Hampi itself, it is one of the well-known tourist hotspot in the South India even today. And with several other temples apart from Virupaksha temple and structures are located, Hampi was empire's capital city. The empire that we are talking about is obviously Vijayanagar Empire. Now it stands today as evidence of what is known as last great Hindu empire of South India. And UNESCO also recognized its uniqueness and categorized the group of monuments at Hampi as World Heritage Site. So this is the World Heritage Site. The site, it has been declared by the UNESCO itself. Now the question comes that the news which we are covering about is the collapse of the pillar of the temple. So why the pillars have collapsed? So first of all, if we understand, the pillars were made up of stone pillars, basically using the stones, and this is, you can see, this is the collapsed part and this is still the stable part of the pillar. So here ASI has said that pillar's condition has deteriorated because first of all it is a very old age pillar, and due to continuous rainfall that is received in this part of India, rain has caused a continuous deterioration of this pillar. And also the entire pavilion was set for restoration, and ASI were also aware that these pillars lacked strong foundation. Now it is believed that stone pillars were subject to very heavy rains in the past, and also as the rainwater percolated downward, it has caused the weakening of not only the pillars but also the foundation of the pillars. And as the foundation of pillar lost its strength, the continuous heavy rainfall have caused gradual collapse of the entire structure. So this is how ASI has tried to explain the situation. Now since we are talking about Archaeological Survey of India, let us look at the brief history of ASI as well. So it was Sir William Jones, as you can see from the portrait here, who began archaeological and historical pursuits in India. And it was he, along with some other people who were antiquarians, a group of antiquarians, they set up what is basically or popularly called as Asiatic Society somewhere on 15 January 1784 in Calcutta. That means Asiatic Society under the leadership of Sir William Jones was the first organization which was involved in archaeological and historical pursuits in the Indian subcontinent. However, later on the Archaeological Survey of India was set up under the leadership was also the Director General of this organization, known by Alexander Cunningham, whose photo you can see from here. So Alexander Cunningham was the one who set up the ASI, Archaeological Survey of India, as department of the British government that time. Later on, after independence, Archaeological Survey of India obviously became part of the Ministry of Culture of Government of India, and as of now it is a government agency that is largely involved in archaeological research, conservation of the archaeological monuments, as well as preservation of cultural and historical monuments throughout the entire country. And not only throughout the country, but also many times ASI engages itself in collaboration and collaborative effort with other countries. For example, in Cambodia, one of the largest known temple, Angkor Wat temple is there. There also you will see that ASI has collaborated to restore and preserve the overall entire Angkor Wat temple. Now, when you talk about the restoration work, many times ASI also faces severe challenges in restoration of old historical monuments. So, what are these challenges? The first challenges that has been highlighted by the organization is related to funding. Many times the funding granted to them are not sufficient enough to cover the cost of restoration. Second, even if funding is made available, the logistics and human resources are something also that the organization struggles with. Second, as most of the ancient monument, and especially we talk about this particular case where the restoration of stone pillars is going on, it requires the use of same type of stone that was used to construct such pillars, and this is done also using the traditional method how the pillars were constructed. So all this actually becomes a very time consuming exercise, further straining the funding, logistic and human resources crisis. Also, the Virupaksha temple you talk about is a temple that is in constant worship. That means people from all around India are coming continuously to visit the temple, and this has led to many additions and alterations to different parts of temple complex, and this has been highlighted by UNESCO as well. That makes it more challenging for continuing the restoration work. Thus, overall, what we can say is the tensions that is seen in overall archaeological monuments, archaeological sites all across India, even in the entire world, is a conflict between the modern uses of the site and protecting the fabric and setting of the ancient remains. And this conflict, this tension need to be managed with the utmost sensitivity, which ASI to a large extent has been able to do. So that is all about this particular video. I hope you understood about brief history, architecture of Virupaksha temple and also how the pillars around this temple has collapsed. Thank you very much.